So let's just say it bluntly. Wang Yi's visit to India isn't about friendship, goodwill, or some magical Asian unity. It's a calculated power move. And the timing says everything. While the United States is busy burning its bridges with both friends and rivals, China is steering the geopolitical ship exactly where it wants it to go. And India? Well, India is clinging to the railing, hoping it doesn't fall overboard. Next week, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi will be in New Delhi for talks with India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. On paper, it's about the disputed Himalayan border. In reality, it's about showing who's boss in the region. Remember, these two countries had a deadly clash there in 2020. Soldiers literally fought hand-to-hand in the freezing mountains. It took 5 years and a carefully negotiated border patrolling agreement just to thaw relations enough for this kind of meeting to happen again. I won't sugarcoat it. Indian forces got beat bad. And now, barely a week after that, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will fly to China for the first time in 7 years to meet President Xi Jinping at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. This isn't some casual visit. It's a sign that Beijing is willing to dangle the possibility of better relations, but only now, after years of tension. It's almost like China is saying, all right, we'll talk, but on our terms. Why now? Because Washington has made a mess of things with India. President Trump just slapped a massive 50% tariff on Indian exports, one of the steepest for any so-called strategic partner. That's not just a slap on the wrist. That's a slap, a shove, and a kick for good measure. And while India reels from that hit, the US and China quietly agreed to extend their own tariff truce for another 90 days, avoiding triple-digit duties on each other's goods. That's right. While India gets hammered, China and the US are giving each other breathing room. They're probably quietly laughing at India together. For Beijing, this is the perfect time to play the long game. By reaching out to India now, China gets to look like the grown-up in the room, while the US looks unpredictable and hostile. And if you're sitting in New Delhi watching your exports get strangled, suddenly that evil rival across the Himalayas starts looking a lot more like a business opportunity. And you can see the shift already. People who used to foam at the mouth whenever China was mentioned, like Indian media figure Palki Sharma, are suddenly sounding, let's just say, less hostile. Almost like someone flipped a switch. 1 week it's endless lectures about how China is the enemy. Next week it's all about practical cooperation and regional stability. Funny how 50% tariffs can change your worldview overnight. In her most recent video talking about Wang Yi's visit, she is talking with many pauses and almost stuttering, as if she realized that she is going against everything she talked about for her entire career. This isn't about mutual respect between equals. This is about desperation. India needs a big trade partner to keep its economy afloat. If it can't get that from the US, then by process of elimination, the only other superpower in the room is China. And China knows it. Now, on the surface, there are already some concrete steps being discussed. The two countries have agreed to restart direct flights, which have been suspended since 2020. They're also talking about easing trade barriers, including reopening 3 Himalayan border crossings for trade. Sure, border trade is tiny, just a drop in the bucket compared to the $128 billion in total trade between them last year, but it's symbolic. Symbolic that China is willing to re-engage. Symbolic that India is willing to swallow a bit of pride to get access to markets again. But here's the thing. China should be careful. Very careful. India has a track record of being geopolitically two-faced. It's the same country that stands on stage talking about supporting Ukraine while quietly importing record amounts of Russian oil and gas. It's the same country that complains about Chinese goods flooding its markets, but still can't function without Chinese electronics and manufacturing inputs. You can't ignore the fact that New Delhi has mastered the art of playing both sides depending on which way the wind is blowing. Today, it might look like India is ready to cozy up to Beijing. Tomorrow, it could be throwing its lot back in with Washington if the political weather changes. This is why any trade deal China makes with India needs to be airtight. No credit, no vague promises, no we'll pay later. If India wants Chinese goods or investment, it should pay in full up front. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that India's economic promises have a habit of evaporating into thin air. Now, I know some people will say, oh, you're being too harsh. India is just protecting its interests. Sure, but so is China. And in this game, trust is currency. India's pattern of hedging, flip-flopping, and publicly posturing while privately doing the opposite makes it a risky partner. And let's not forget, these warmer talks are happening because India is on the back foot. Without those 50% US tariffs, would Modi be rushing to shake Xi Jinping's hand? Would Palki Sharma suddenly find kind words for China? Doubtful. This shift is not about a sudden appreciation for China's role in the region. It's about economic necessity, plain and simple. But that necessity puts China in the driver's seat. Beijing can set the terms, pace, and scope of this renewed engagement. It can choose how much to give and how much to hold back, to keep India from running back into Washington's arms at the first sign of trouble. This is where China's advantage lies. Patience. While the US burns bridges in weeks, China builds them slowly, brick by brick, until its position is secure. Still, Beijing shouldn't romanticize this moment. India's political and media circles can swing wildly based on domestic politics. One month, you're a trusted partner. The next month, you're the villain in every headline. That's why this warming of ties should be treated as an opportunity, but not a guarantee. And the irony? For years, India's national narrative was about countering China's influence in Asia. It joined US-led alliances, made noise about military buildup, and constantly painted itself as the democratic alternative to Beijing. Fast forward to today, and those same voices are talking about resuming flights, boosting border trade, and improving the lives of residents along the border. It's a PR pivot that would make even the slickest political strategists proud. Let's be honest. If the roles were reversed and China had been hit with massive tariffs while India was in a truce with Washington, New Delhi wouldn't hesitate to rub salt in the wound. That's just how the game is played, which is exactly why China should approach this moment with both eyes open. If Beijing plays it right, it can secure more stable trade routes, increase its regional influence, and quietly remind the world that in Asia, China is the senior partner and India the junior. If it plays it wrong, it risks being used as a temporary lifeline until the US decides it needs India again. So yes, Wang Yi's visit is more than just a diplomatic courtesy. It's a test of how far India is willing to go for economic relief, and a test of whether China can turn that desperation into lasting leverage. The stakes are high, but the rewards, for the side that plays the long game better, could be huge. India might be smiling right now, but make no mistake, in geopolitics, smiles are just another negotiating tactic. And that's the real takeaway here. China is steering the ship, the US is drifting, and India is just trying not to get left behind. Whether this new warmth turns into a genuine partnership or just another short-term convenience will depend entirely on how carefully Beijing handles the next moves. So, what do you guys think? Is this the start of a real China-India partnership, or just another chapter in India's long history of hedging its bets? Don't hesitate to drop a comment sharing your thoughts.